As you can see, it's pretty barren, even though this is a major artery and it is plowed. Apparently, it's very slick out there, and a lot of drivers have decided to abandon their Friday night plans and are staying at home instead. Pretty good idea. But before, many Twin City drivers turned in
because they will be plowing and they will be towing. However, outside the area of Minneapolis and St. Paul, they are not plowing. It has been made, a decision has been made that plowing would be too dangerous and that it would also not be effective because of the hazardous conditions. They are hoping to resume plowing in Ramsey and Hennepin counties at about 3 o'clock this morning. But an indication of just how bad things really are, Hennepin County sent several of their snowplow operators home this afternoon. They'd been working all night. They got as far as Laredo in a personal car and then got stuck. They sent a snowplow out to rescue the snowplow operators. Well, that snowplow also got stuck. And Colleen, with stories like that, you have to wonder what the roads are really going to be like tomorrow morning when we all wake up.
That's a good question. Thanks, Esme. Esme Murphy with the dismal story of travel around this area. Now, Twin Cities AAA says it is just swamped tonight. They're only responding to emergency calls from people who are stranded away from home. At this point, AAA...
Tonight was the Timberwolves' home opener, a sellout. But only about 7,000 diehard fans turned up for the game, which wasn't a total surprise.
It took a lot of our staff people till about noon to get into the office today, so we weren't even sure that our staff, let alone the fans, would come tonight.
But back to Mark's story. His friend has agreed to come pick him up.
He calls me about 3. Says he's going to be over. He calls me 5 minutes later and says, my car is dead.
But Mark wasn't the only one who had a tough time getting downtown. Twins hero Gene Larkin is doing color commentary for the Wolves game, had a tough time too.
The plow plowed me into my driveway, so they sent 2 guys to pick me up, and I got here about a half hour ago.
So you just barely made it then?
Just barely made my first debut.
And eventually, Mark made it downtown too.
So it took me 4 hours from the time I left my house to get here.
4 hours?
4 hours.
Is it worth it?
No.
And one more thing, the announcers for the Timberwolves game almost didn't make it because of the weather, and as we mentioned, Gene Larkin was doing some guest color commentary for the game, so the Wolves told him he may have to call the game as well as do commentary. Larkin said that the prospect of that made him even more nervous than going up to bat in the 10th inning of the 7th game of the World Series.
All right, thank you, Inga. This snowstorm is still causing major problems for travelers. As we said at the top of the newscast, the international airport will be closing in just minutes and will stay closed for 2 to 3 hours. Now, one of 2 runways was closed for several hours this morning. Flights were delayed for up to 2 hours. Also tonight, cab service out of the airport is a problem. Dozens of travelers who just arrived had to wait at least an hour for a ride. As we said earlier, we have news crews all over covering this mega snowstorm. Art Sassy is up on the Iron Range. The snowstorm has had some effect on satellite signals, and we apologize for this somewhat snowy picture.
Up here on the range, we didn't fare as badly in the snow department, but we do have 0 degrees and strong winds, 30 to 40 miles per hour before the night is over. Drifting, a very bad problem here for any driver who's out at this hour. Down in Duluth and Superior, they weren't quite as lucky as we were. 22 inches as of 6 o'clock, more snow on the way. Very bad driving conditions. Everyone is advised to stay at home if at all possible, and of course, stay warm as we're trying to do from Hibbing. I'm Art Sassy reporting.
Now, in the Twin Cities, 6 residents have died from storm-related heart attacks or accidents, and an incredible number of people had fingers or toes.
Counties. That's because ice buildup has snapped a huge number of power lines. As many as 20,000 people in those 2 counties are without power.
We haven't had any power since last night, and I don't expect to see it with all the power poles that are snapped off, the lines that are down, and everything, including the main transmission lines that are down. I don't expect to see power at our house for a few days.
The state of emergency declaration allows repair equipment to be brought in from Wisconsin to help get the power back on, but it's unlikely that'll happen for a day or 2.
Nobody will be getting in and out of the Twin Cities International for the next 3 hours. The airport is being closed because workers can't keep the ramps clear of snow. The airport had been operating with only 1 runway most of the day and night. More than half of all flights in and out have been canceled. Pauline Avo left Detroit early this morning, taking her 82-year-old mother to a family celebration at Thief River Falls. Tonight, they're stranded here.
I keep trying to think of it as an adventure, and, you know, we'll probably remember it more because of everything that's happened.
Officials say they're closing the airport at 10:15 tonight. They say if the winds let up, they hope to reopen in about 3 hours.
If your car is parked on the street, it may be towed tonight if it's in the wrong place. The snow emergency rules are complicated, but here we go. In Minneapolis, parking is not allowed on any snow emergency routes until after 8 tomorrow morning. Beginning at 8 in the morning, there's no parking allowed on the odd side of the street in Minneapolis and no parking allowed on the parkways. In St. Paul, authorities are asking that motorists get their cars off the snow emergency routes. But due to the conditions, cars will not be tagged or towed in St. Paul tonight. In Richfield and Bloomington, the rules are much easier. No parking is allowed on any residential street until it's plowed. Now, although the Twin Cities are virtually shut down tonight, some events are going ahead as planned.
One is a timber
snow that the weight of it caused 3 different buildings to collapse. Snow removal teams spent much of the day making sure that didn't happen to the Metrodome. They sprayed superheated water on the roof to knock off the snow. Another dome did collapse. The downtown Greenway Athletic Club had its roof fall in on its tennis courts.
So right now with our tennis members, it's going to be a blow because it's winter. And to me personally, it's a blow.
For motorists, spinning wheels were the rule rather than the exception. No fun for Jocelyn Stone.
No, this is like uncool. I'm gonna at least have to move to like an apartment that has a covered garage because I cannot deal with it.
Blowing and scraping and spinning, seldom with success. The only people outside who seemed to appreciate the snow, those who were skating instead of scraping. I'm Daryl Savage, WCCO Television News.
This is Bill Hudson. It was the kind of day when some bus riders had to choose between spinning their wheels or getting out to push. The MTC says of more than 800 regularly scheduled morning rush hour trips, only 125 had to be canceled. But riders from Edina in southwest Minneapolis found themselves in a holding pattern next to Lake Calhoun as drifting snow trapped a dozen buses in a narrow corridor where they couldn't turn around. Freeway travelers seemed to do well enough, except where someone got stuck or spun out in front of them. Traffic on this ramp looked something like a truck stop, while drivers of 2 semis pondered their predicament. More than 100 pieces of snow removal equipment was on the roads and in the alleyways in Minneapolis and Hennepin County alone. De-icing kept many planes in the air, but Twin Cities International ran about half of its normal capacity today, with Northwest Airlines canceling 100 flights, including all inbound traffic after 6:30 this evening. So by air, by land, and by MTC, no one seemed to be getting anywhere very quickly today.
Now, those who were able to get out and get around didn't find much they could get to.
Now, that's because just about everything around the Twin Cities was closed today, if you didn't know that. Public schools were shut down, which was no surprise, of course, but the University of Minnesota closed for the day as well. That has happened for the past 6 years. Dayton's closed its doors, another rare event, and shopping malls all over the metro area kept their doors shut as well, except for some stores within them. Most say they will be open tomorrow, though, for those of you who are desperate to get out of the house, and I know on the day after Halloween, there are probably a lot of people trying to get out of their house right now.
And there were some people today who were really desperate to get out. Emergencies don't stop with a snowstorm. Caroline Lowe shows us emergency crews and other people who had to go out in the snow today to get the job done.
Emergency crews often had a tough time getting around today, but somehow managed to muddle through the snow-clogged streets without any serious problems.
Without knowing what the problem is, I can't send a squad out, so calm yourself down.
In St. Paul, 911 operators were snowed under with phone calls. Most were requests for information and did not involve major emergencies. And when St. Paul officers were dispatched, they often used their own 4x4s instead of squads and were reimbursed at the rate of $15 an hour.
What is the first name, please?
Phone operators across the cities were also busy. They often were forced to cope with a system that kept overloading with snowbound customers trying to make contact with the rest of the world. The Postal Service also did its best to get out the mail, but despite some valiant efforts, many carriers just couldn't make all of their rounds. They might have had better luck if they could have made their rounds in this high-powered snowmobile used by the Minneapolis police. Park Police Agent Fred McCormick spent the day on standby, ready to help police and ambulance crews navigate the snow-clogged city streets to respond to calls. But by late today, McCormick had only been needed for one emergency that was unreachable by a regular squad. Caroline Lowe, WCCO Television News, the Twin Cities.
Now, days like this mean trouble for some, but a bad storm also provides an opportunity for all of us to relearn what it means to be members of a community.
And this week we unveiled our new Community News Center here on Channel 4, our effort to cover more news from neighborhoods and neighbors helping neighbors.
Change things indeed. If you've ever been stuck in snow and helped out by neighbors, you know how good-hearted Minnesotans can be, even in the worst of weather. Norman Varberg worked half of last night and most of the day cheerfully clearing snow at a St. Louis Park apartment complex. Thanks to Varberg, the walk from home to car was the easiest trip any of the apartment dwellers made all day. Also from St. Louis Park comes a story about a woman who was in the wrong place at the right time. Peggy Daniel was stuck, and it's a good thing because she's an in-home nurse whose replacement couldn't make it. Peggy stayed with her patient and provided the care she badly needed.
She couldn't get anybody in here. We didn't do her inhalation therapy or anything, so it's a good thing, yeah, that I was stuck with her.
Peggy Daniel, by the way, cares for a woman with cystic fibrosis. And though the storm inconvenienced everybody, it forced many people to slow down and pay attention to the things that matter most. In Orono, that meant a father who'd normally be at work got to spend the day hanging out with his son. And our final story takes us out to Bloomington, where neighbors got together to help bring another into the world.
Born Adam Fisher may never appreciate the harrowing adventure or helpful neighbors that brought his parents to Fairview Southdale Hospital this morning, just 15 minutes before he was born. The foot-high snow stalled the Fishers' car half a block from their Bloomington home, stranding them and 4-year-old son Alexander.
Alexander and I kind of jogged back home, and Stan came back too, dragging the hospital bag, which weighed about 80 pounds, and called the police.
So I yelled to her, I said, "Do you need some help?" And she said, "I'm in labor and my contractions are 2.5 minutes apart."
Neighbors Nancy Gang left her 3 daughters with her husband and dashed out with her shovel, first stopping to call for neighbor Barbara Anderson, a surgical and maternity nurse.
I went down the basement and started looking around for stuff that I could use to deliver the baby. This was going to be to clamp the cord, and the scissors, I thought we could boil these up, and a bulb syringe to suck out the baby.
As it turned out, an ambulance escorted by 2 police cars and a snowplow got there just in time.
That was the neat part. None of us really knew this neighbor, but there was a need there and everybody responded.
There were a lot of people in the neighborhood that I didn't know, but I'm sure going to be able to thank after this. Everybody was real helpful.
To say the least. One final note, the doctors and nurses at Fairview Southdale Edina delivered 8 babies earlier today, some of them working double and even triple shifts to help out those who couldn't make it to work because of the snow. Back to you, Don and Colleen.
Thank you for those. Nice to hear those stories in the midst of all this other stuff.
Those babies keep coming.
Yeah, they do.
No storm or no storm.
I have a suspicion we're going to hear about a lot of babies who were born not at the hospital. I think
the stress level goes up and labor sets in a lot during these times. Well, we're going to take a short break, and then Mike Fairborn will be back with more details about this storm and our weekend.
Then later on in Dimension, we're going to answer some of your questions about how to make home.
Especially, the snow has been tapering off in the western sides, lightening up considerably from the western part of Carver County down through western Scott County. Lighter amounts of snow falling at about 1/2 inch per hour right now. Still at the rate of 1 inch to 1.5 inches per hour, though, in the eastern sections of Minnesota into west central Wisconsin, Pierce and St. Croix County. They're probably still getting a pretty good dumping of snow right now, as much as 25 to 30 inches of snow in many areas in the far eastern part of our state, as well as west central Wisconsin. And that storm continues to wrap up. Look at this satellite loop over the last 18 hours and watch the storm push almost straight north through eastern Minnesota. That is what has kept the snow sitting over the eastern part of the state, because that strong storm lifts northward. Outside officially at the airport right now, temp still at 24. That's been dropping now over the last hour or so. Dew point 21. Northwest winds gusting to 33 miles per hour, creating a wind chill of 7 below, and we still have snow. Visibility about 5/8 of a mile. High today, 32. Well, we've been falling since that to the current reading of 24. That is low for the day. And 27 inches officially out at the airport. And it looks like around the state, most of the heavier amounts right in the eastern part of Minnesota. There it is, 27 here in the Twin Cities, 26 up in Duluth. Lighter amounts on both sides. Forecast then for overnight tonight. A very tricky night if you're out traveling. Blizzard warning, snow and blowing snow, maybe 2 to 4 more. It's going to bring our total right up to around 30 inches before it's all over. Falling temps through the teens, through the 20s and then into the teens tonight. By tomorrow morning, Waking up 15, still some snow and blowing snow, most of the accumulating snow done. Then in the afternoon, still some flurries or light snow and blowing snow, 15 to 20, very chilly. Then tomorrow night, we drop down into the single digits with some flurries, and on Sunday, still about the same story, 14 to 18. But as we look ahead, temps do warm up a bit, up into the 20s again by Wednesday, and a chance of some light snow developing then, but highs in the teens.
And that's the problem. The problem is not so much on the interstates, although many interstates are real slow going. The problem is the ramps, the secondary roads. Just getting to the interstate is all but impossible. It is truly gridlock out there right now. Skip Aldrich, incidentally, has a Suburban with good clearance. He's got a plow on the front. He got stuck 5 times today. So when we say don't go out, we're not saying it to be polite. We really mean don't go out. You're in the best place right now. Okay, let's check out some facts. Why so much snow? First of all, it was a very slow-moving storm, allowing snow to accumulate at the rate of 2 to 3 inches an hour. High water content, Gulf moisture gurgling northward, 2 to 3 inches of liquid equivalent. And the ratio is usually 10 inches of snow for every inch of liquid water. We started off very cold, remember, a couple of days ago, and that set the stage for this incredible snowfall amount. Look at some of these amounts. 27.2 inches in the Twin Cities. 27.2. That is the most you will probably ever see in your lifetime from one storm. We set a 24-hour record. We also set a record for the most snow ever from a single storm. Duluth, 25. They could get 30 by the time it's all over. St. Cloud, 12. Check out a few other amounts here. Redwood Falls, 12. International Falls, 10. An inch in Eau Claire. 1 inch in Eau Claire. Okay, let's check out the map, see what we can find. Check out the latest weather map, and you can see a very, very powerful storm right now over Wisconsin. Problem is, counterclockwise winds swirling around that storm are going to continue to whip up winds tomorrow, up around 20 to 40 miles an hour. Another 2 to 4 inches of snow expected tonight, but the problem is going to be more blowing, more drifting tomorrow near whiteout conditions. I don't see this gradient relaxing until probably sometime Sunday afternoon. Sunday, I think, the first real day to get out and dig out. Check out these snow bands, snow falling at the rate of 2 to 3 inches an hour. The storm is slowing down, it's filling in, it's doing what we call occluding, which means it's moving even slower than it was during the morning hours this morning. So that leads us to believe another 2 to 4 inches of snow, a very real possibility coming between now and breakfast time tomorrow. I think we will see 29 or 30 inches. There is the snow. It continues to come down. Just incredible. In terms of additional amounts, 2 to 4, maybe as much as 8 for parts of the Arrowhead. The complete forecast.
But the winds are going to be around for a while. Our temperatures right now are in the 20s over the eastern part of the state, dropping into the teens out to the west, and it's these temperatures in the teens that are going to be over us tomorrow. So the temperature's going to drop, and it's going to stay cold on through the weekend. You couple the wind gusts from anywhere between 28 and 40 miles an hour across the state, and we're looking at wind chills right now anywhere from the single digits to the 30s below zero, and the wind chills are going to be a significant thing throughout the night tonight. If you're outside or have to be out, be sure and cover up. Our low pressure area that's creating all that right now is up over northern Wisconsin. It's lifting off fairly fast, but the circulation around that is going to keep us cloudy, keep some flurries in here throughout the day tomorrow, and keep the winds howling between the high pressure and the low pressure. Temperatures are going to stay in the deep freeze for a while. We're not even going to start even thinking about melting this snow until sometime toward the end of next week, if then. Blizzard warning in effect. Snow and blowing snow, an additional 1 to 3 inches across the metro area. Some areas will end up as much as 30 inches of snow from this storm. 15 for a low. Northwest winds 20 to 40, and some higher gusts are possible. Tomorrow, 20 to 30 mile-an-hour winds with higher gusts. 15 degrees, holding steady.
Now, they'll be there within 6 hours of the time you call, or they'll buy you a Thanksgiving turkey. Now, the offer ends Sunday, so get on that phone. Operators and turkeys are standing by.
You can tell the kids you survived the blizzard of 91. And it is a blizzard. Check out the map. Blizzard warnings in effect for a good chunk of the state right now for whiteout conditions. A blizzard means winds of 35 miles an hour sustained, and visibility is under 1/4 of a mile. There's that latest weather map. The storm continuing to move very slowly across Wisconsin. Very, very powerful winds on the backside of that storm will continue to whip up winds as high as 40 miles an hour right through tomorrow night. So again, I want to stress travel conditions not improving much tomorrow, Sunday, the first day to really go from point A to point B and get to where you have to get to. Our forecast, first of all, let's check the currents. 32 the high today, a low this hour 24, 27.2 inches of snow from this storm. Right now, the backyard 24 snowing, northwest winds gusting to 35, the wind chill -7. The humidity 88 and the barometer now on the rise. That forecast tonight, a blizzard warning in effect, snow and blowing snow. I think another 2 to 4. Temperatures going through the teens, and then tomorrow, temperatures going nowhere. Still treacherous travel, maybe another inch of snow tomorrow, but a lot of blowing and drifting. Wind chills 30 to 50 below. Sunday looks better, partly sunny, very cold, 17, back up to 28 degrees on Tuesday. Turned on the radio this morning, Paul, and I kind of hoping to hear Channel 11 has been canceled. Yeah. 2 hours late. But how are we going to get home? That's the question.
Well,
I don't know.
Start walking from there.
It's a long way.
See ya. Thank you. Well, you would think that on a night like this, every sporting event in the region